Hey guys, what's up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw, and this time it is going to be on It Chapter 2. Now, It Chapter 2 takes place 27 years after the events of the first movie, which involved a group of kids called the Losers Club, and they have grown up now. Some of them are married, some of them are still single, some of them were doing their own things. Then they get back together as Pennywise has returned and is not only hunting down them but other children as well. And from there, they have to find out once and for all how to defeat Pennywise for good without him ever coming back. And from there, we have James McAvoy, we have Jessica Chastain, Bill Hader. So we got ourselves a pretty good casting choice for the adult Losers Club gang. So how does this movie all play out? It plays out just as the first movie. I mean, it takes place 27 years after the events of that. Everybody's doing their own thing, but Mike decides to get everybody back together as Pennywise is back once again. And of course, like I just mentioned before, oh my god, I am just repeating myself. Let me just get into the overall film itself. Now, as you guys know, I absolutely loved the first It. It was one of my favorite films of 2017, and I think it's one of the best horror films of the decade. I feel like in 10 more years, that film is destined to become a classic. Hell, I think it's a classic right now. I thought that movie did the source material even better than the miniseries did. I never read the book, so I don't know much about that, but, I thought the first movie was just absolutely incredible. So, of course, I was excited for It Chapter 2. And it's not as good as the first movie, unfortunately. But I still really enjoyed it overall. Alright? And I do think that this half is much better than the original half of the miniseries. Because, since the second half really wasn't that good, at least not as good as the first half, then I had a feeling that this was probably not going to be better than the first movie. And it wasn't, but overall, a lot of positives to the film is that it is creepy enough. In fact, the movie can be a bit more disturbing than the first film, and I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but it's bloody, and honestly, I think that's what the movie was going for a little too much at some parts. But, Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård is once again excellent as Pennywise. He is creepy, just as he was in the first movie. Although, the way it opened up, and kind of like the way it ended, I didn't really feel like it was as powerful as the opening to the first movie and ending to the second movie did. Which, if I get into it, I'm just going to get into spoilers. One thing, though, this this movie is long. And I mean long. You thought Suspiria 2018 was long. This is even longer than almost all the Marvel movies, except for Avengers Endgame. The runtime for this is 2 hours and 48 minutes. I'm not even lying. It's almost as long as the miniseries. Combine both of the two movies together, it's like 5 hours long, making it extremely longer than the miniseries. And that's where most of the flaws went for some people. I find it a flaw too. There are some moments in this movie that really shouldn't be too long. Some scenes drag a bit. Particularly, there are some scenes with characters where they're each getting terrorized as when they were younger. Speaking of younger, sometimes it cuts back to the kids or the adults as when they were kids. We get to see Ben, who was the chubby one, is a lot thinner now. He's lost a lot of weight, and I couldn't really tell it was him. So, it would make sense why they casted a guy. But Jessica Chastain, was actually in Andy Muschietti, the director's first film, Mama. So I thought that was a pretty good casting choice for Beverly. So that was pretty cool. And we got James McAvoy as Bill, who is also really terrific in this. And there are scenes with the characters that I thought worked really well. Although some of the scenes in the movie Sometimes questions do get answered, but sometimes they don't, and I really feel like that's going to be quite divisive. This is going to be quite a divisive movie. Like, I feel like audiences might enjoy this a bit more than critics. Like, I feel like critics are just going to complain because it's a bit too long, but there are things to nitpick about, and they're very easy to notice. But honestly, the movie, I feel like, did its job really well. It intends to be really creepy and disturbing, and for the most part, it did. It does. And scenes with characters, they do drag on quite a little bit. Some of the characters I were interested in their backstories, and some of them I weren't. A couple of them I thought were a little disappointing, but even though I'm nitpicking quite a bit, that doesn't mean I hated this movie. Okay, everybody is terrific. Pennywise is terrific. It offers some really fun scares. It offers some really disturbing sequences, particularly a lot of CGI sequences. Some of it looks a little cheesy. Some of it looks actually pretty good. Like they used like 45 gallons of fake blood, 4,500 gallons of fake blood in this movie, as far as I know, and that was pretty cool. Like, there are times where the movie can be a bit more violent than the first movie, and sometimes there are scenes where it kind of gets away with a little too much humor. Like, it tries way too much to be funny at the same time. I mean, there were funny moments in the first movie, but I feel like those scenes were a bit smarter than in this. Like, I'm not saying this is not a smart movie or anything. Like, there are some pretty smart moves that the characters try to take, just like when they memorize back, like in the events of the first movie, and I found that really intriguing overall. But despite its runtime, it didn't make me just want to go, oh, hurry up and end, hurry up and end. Honestly, I wasn't bored by the movie. I mean, some scenes dragged on a bit too much. I feel like they should have cut down a little bit, like a little tiny bit. Maybe make it as long, or maybe a little shorter. You know what I mean. But all in all, this was a fun movie. Okay, great casting choices. Everybody's terrific. Pennywise is terrific. Some scenes were creepy enough. I thought for the most part it worked. And in terms of this being the end to it all, I think it ended pretty solid overall. It might have people talking about it a lot, but I like movies about that, because this is something that I think fans are going to enjoy a lot more than critics are. Well, we'll just see. All I know is that I'm a fan of this, and I thought this sequel was pretty satisfying, and I can see myself watching this again if I decide to watch the first movie again. And I saw the first movie in the theaters once, 3 times at home. So yeah, I have really started to become a bigger fan of this franchise. I'm going to give It Chapter 2 a 4 out of 5. It could have easily been a lot better, if they just cut down some parts, and that's basically it. That's basically my biggest issue, is the runtime. But besides those scenes that do drag on quite a bit, I still thought it was a satisfying conclusion, if this is the final conclusion, which I have a feeling it will be. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Friday the 13th is coming up. That's going to be crazy. And yeah, I have some more games that I want to review, and I do have a top 10 coming up pretty soon. Hopefully I'll get it out before my birthday, but I don't know, we'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.